lecturer at the University, Central University of Ghana. And then also she has experience in teaching in all aspects of microbiology and pharmacognosy. She has across 9 years of valuable teaching experience, both on full-time and then part-time basis. She holds a MPH in pharmaceutical microbiology, and they're also from Kwame University of Science and Technology, Kumasi. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board, and then as we welcome our speaker today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Abdullah, for the introduction. All right, so good evening to you all. I'm Miriam Tego, as Abdullah mentioned, and today I'll be taking you through various referencing styles, how to reference and how to use the various referencing tools that are available to you. All right, so I'm from Ghana, and I want to say hi to all the Ghanaians on the platform. I saw other countries representing from Cameroon, from South Africa and all. I want to say hello to all of you. Thank you for joining today's session. Okay. I hope we can all see the slides and I'm audible enough.
Yes, Annie. Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Okay. So today we're going to have an interesting discussion on referencing. I'm told today I have some young pharmacists representing, and I also have some student pharmacists representing. And as a young pharmacist and as a student pharmacist, you're going to need referencing in your research work. As a student, you're going to be doing some project works. And in drafting your thesis and drafting your dissertation, you're going to need referencing, okay? And as a young pharmacist, if you want to write any publication, okay, you're also going to need the knowledge on referencing. So referencing is very important. Let's get into it. Okay, so referencing is how you acknowledge a certain information that you have picked up from one or more sources. So you're doing your research, you're writing up your dissertation, and you read various articles bordering on the topic that you're working on. And you want to put that information you have gathered into your dissertation or into your thesis, or even into your manuscript. Now, this information that you're putting into your thesis and into your dissertation and your manuscripts, it needs to be referenced. You need to acknowledge the people that you took that information from. You need to give them the due credence and due credits for it. It's a method that helps researchers to demonstrate that they have conducted thorough research, they have done substantial research, read wide, to gather information that helps them to develop their arguments. Okay, so without referencing, it would seem like you sat in one corner of your room and you conjured some information and then decided to put it out there. Okay, it would seem like you are a fake researcher or a fraud. Okay, because you're not giving credence to those who did the research behind the scenes. You did not gather the information by yourself, but you sought the knowledge of others, and so you must give credence to them. I hope I am making sense. All right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, let's say you have an article that you are referencing from. You want to gather information from that article into your thesis, okay? You can decide to directly quote from the article or the book, you can decide to summarize, whether you are quoting or you're summarizing, or you are even using a picture or an illustration that is within an article, you need to reference it. You need to give credit to the original creator of the work. And in order to do the referencing, in order to reference others, you need to choose a particular referencing style, which is what we'll be dealing with today. And when we say referencing styles, what do we mean? Referencing styles are basically various formats that you can use to present your reference. So in various households, okay, let me use Ghana because I come from Ghana. So let's say in various households in Ghana, they have different ways of preparing the same meal, okay? So you go to one person's house, he prepares the meal in a different way. Another person prepares a tomato stew, for instance, in another way, okay? They have different styles of preparing the same food. In the same way, we have different styles of referencing. So one individual may choose a particular style depending on the kind of requirements he's trying to meet. So for instance, I attended Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and in my school, we were encouraged to use the Harvard KNUST style, which is a variation of the Harvard style, okay? That was the recommendation and the requirements that we needed to meet as undergraduates and postgraduate students. Other schools may have other requirements, so you may want to find out what your school requires of you. Your school may ask you to be using the Vancouver style. Your school may be asking you to use the APA style, the MLE style. So you want to find out, first of all, what is the requirement of the school? And for young pharmacists who want to publish, okay, the various journals also have requirements that you need to meet. And so you want to find out, read through the requirements that the journal is giving out and find out what specific formats do they want you to reference. I think that would help us to do a good job, okay? All right, so we have different examples of referencing styles. We have the Harvard style of referencing. We have the APA style, which is also known as the American Psychological Association style. We have the Vancouver style, and then the MLA citation style. We have other styles as well, okay? But I would limit it to these four for today. So we've been talking about referencing. Why do we need to bother ourselves? Like I said earlier, if you are not referencing your work, it stands to suggest that you may be giving out information that is not credible, or you may be a fraud. You do not know exactly what you're doing. You're just putting information together and then presenting it out there. So referencing helps you to support your statements, okay? Once you reference using, let's say you're drafting a thesis, and then you want to say that, for example, the symptoms of helminth infections include cramps, diarrhea, and so on. You need to add a reference as to where you got that information from. Probably you got that information from a WHO website. So you want to reference that to show that you are supporting the various statements and arguments that you're making. And that helps the various readers to believe in your work, to trust in your work. Also, it helps you to avoid charges of plagiarism. If you put out information in your thesis or manuscript without a particular reference, it goes to show that you own the work. You found the information by yourself, and you can be charged. The authors of that particular article can charge you with plagiarism because you are sort of posing out there that you did the work. Meanwhile, you did not, put that research together. Also, one thing it does is it helps others to follow up on your work. So after you're done publishing your work, for instance, or you're done with your thesis, it has been put into your school's repository. What happens is an individual can go into the repository or go to Google Scholar and then get your work. And the individual may want to read thoroughly, okay, on your work. So the individual can now go to the various references that you have cited to find out whether what you're saying is indeed true and to better understand the work that you have done. So referencing is very, very important. All right. Okay, so before we get into the referencing proper, let's look at some referencing terms, okay, which would guide us. So we have a term called citation, okay. Others may use the word in-text referencing. It's virtually the same thing. So for citation, citation is a form of reference that appears in the text. I think I have an example in my slides. Yes. So let's look at this text. It's a very long text. However, at the end of every sentence, you have a reference. So that's what I've circled red. Okay, that's the reference. And we'll look at the style that is being represented here very soon. However, this is in-text referencing, or this is citation, okay? So when the reference is being made in the text, then we call it citation or in-text referencing. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so it may be the format for the citation may be the numeric format like I just showed you, or it may be in the format of the author date format, okay, where you have, for example, Jones 2020. So the author's name and the year in which the work was published. So this is citation or in-text referencing. Then we also have reference, okay? So every citation, every in-text reference has a reference that is corresponds to, okay? So this usually appears at the end of your thesis or at the end of your manuscript, all right? So this is what we call the reference list. So you have your in-text citation or your in-text reference within the text, and then your reference list appears at the end of the research. Okay, it can be called reference list or bibliography, but there's a little difference between the two. The little difference between the two is for the reference list, it contains all the works that you have cited in your text, all the works you've cited in your write-up, okay? But bibliography may also contain certain material that you have read, but you did not necessarily cite it in your text. So bibliography is more broader, may have more materials as compared to the reference list. However, these two terms are also used interchangeably, okay? All right, so let's look at the various sources that we can reference from, okay? We can reference from journals, okay? You can reference from books, either printed books or ebooks. You can reference from internet websites. You can also reference from conference papers. So let's say an individual presented his research at a conference and then wrote a paper out of that. That paper becomes a conference paper, and you can reference from that. Okay, we also have legal documents like court proceedings and various illustrations, various pictures, various charts, okay? We can also reference from those sources. And we can also reference from newspaper articles. Let's say you're doing a survey, for instance, and there's a newspaper article that, a survey, let's say on COVID, for instance, and there's a newspaper article that talks about the COVID statistics in a particular area, you can now also reference from that newspaper article. But as pharmaceutical scientists, usually, we may not usually go in for the legal documents, but all the other sources are also good ones that we usually go in for: conference papers, illustrations, newspaper articles, the journals, books, and then internet references. All right. So what should a reference be made up of? What should be the content of a reference? Okay. So every reference usually has the author's name, the article title, the journal name, the year, the volume of the article. If it's a book, then we'll be looking at the edition of the book, the issue number of the article, and then page numbers as well. Okay, so these elements are usually found in the bibliography or in the reference. Okay, but in the in-text, it will be a little different. It will be more summarized, giving us just a few details, but the reference and the bibliography give us more details about the article or the work that you're referencing from. Okay, so I talked about the reference elements, and this is a slide that would show us the various reference elements that I'm talking about. So if you take any journal article and you look at the very first page of the journal article, you should be able to see some of these reference elements I'm referring to. So on the front page, top left corner, usually you should find the journal title, the year, the volume, the issue, and then the DOI number. The DOI number is usually a link that takes you to the original work. Okay, all right. So you can find these on the top left corner. And then sometimes this information may not be at the top left corner, but you may find it at the bottom of the article, depending on the structure and the nature of the journal. Some journals have different ways of representing their work, and so may have a different outlook, okay, but the information will still be there. All right, then the title of the article will be boldly written on top, and then you have the list of the authors also below it, right below it, okay, just before the abstract and all other information from the article. So this is just a guide. When you pick any article, you know where to go to look for the various information, reference elements that you need to help you in your referencing, right? Okay, so I mentioned various referencing styles, and we'll take them one after the other, okay? So let's talk about the Harvard referencing style. So the various referencing styles are quite similar. However, there are just some slight differences between them. Okay, so first pick the bibliography or the reference and look at the format of it. And then we'll now look at the in-text referencing for each of them. Okay. So let's look at the contents of the bibliography for the Harvard referencing style. So it should have the author's name, followed by the initials, the author's surname. Okay, the author's surname, followed by the initials. So the first name will be in initials. And then it would be followed by the year of publication, the article title, and then the name of the journal in italics, and then the volume of the journal, and then the issue number and page number. So let's look at it. So you have, for instance, Yetim I. Okay, Yetim is a surname, and I represents the first name in initials. So this is the list of all authors that wrote the work. We have about 1, 2, 3, 4 authors writing this particular paper. Okay, and all of them are represented here with the surname and the first name in initials, separated by a comma. Okay, then we have the year of publication in parentheses. After, we also have followed by the title of the article, which is a rare cause of intestinal obstruction, Ascaris lumbricoides infestation, 2 case reports. Okay, and then cases journal is the journal that the paper was published in. Then we have the volume, and then the issue number, and then the page numbers. So that is it for Harvard referencing style. In terms of the bibliography or the reference, this is how it's written. Okay. Let's look at the in-text reference. How is it done? So if we are dealing with a paper where just one author wrote that particular paper, we are going to write the author's surname and then the year in which the individual published the paper. So for instance, we have Richardson 2018, okay? And you put it in parentheses if you want to cite or reference at the end of a sentence, okay? But if you want to include the in-text reference within a sentence, okay, you write the individual surname, the author's surname, and then the year of publication will be in parentheses. So I have an example here. Richardson 2018 claimed that, okay, so this is where you are beginning the sentence, okay, with your reference. So these are ways that you can go about it when you're using one author, when the article has one author. If the article has more than 2 authors, okay, you're now going to use the first author's name, first author's surname, and then etal, first author's surname, and then etal will follow, and then the year of publication follows, all in parentheses. That is when you are referencing at the end of a sentence. So for example, the first example I have here is a full sentence, which ends with indigestion and constipation. Okay. And the author is Odzinga et al. 2012. So immediately you see this, it shows you that it wasn't just one person or 2 people that wrote this paper. It's more than 2 people that wrote this paper. Then for the second example, we have Ejari et al. 2006 reported the presence of, okay, that is when you want to begin the sentence with the reference. So Ejari et al. Is alone without parentheses, and then the year of publication is put in parentheses. There are also certain cases where the information that you have gathered was available in not just one reference. Let's say you read Ejari et al. And it said a particular thing. You read another article and it's saying virtually the same thing. So you want to reference both of them. There's a way to go about it. So that is where you have multiple sources, multiple references that you want to cite at one point in your in-text. So what do we do? So what we do is we cite it as normal. If it is one author, it will be the surname and then the year of publication. So Hortes 2010, okay, you cite it as normal. If it is 2 authors, it will be their surnames, which will be separated by end. Okay, so Paul Sage and Fessel 2009. Then you separate these two references using a semicolon, okay? And put all of them in a parenthesis if it ends a sentence. But if it does not end a sentence, it's beginning a sentence or is found within a sentence, you are going to reference it just the same way we referenced Research-A-Thon on the slide, okay? Where we did Research-A-Thon standing alone without the parentheses, and then the parentheses would rather be around the year of publication, okay? So that's how it works. Then you separate it using the semicolon. All right, I hope I'm making sense so far, and I hope it's going down well with all of us so far. Okay. So let's talk about the Vancouver style. The Vancouver style is almost like the Harvard style with a little difference. So let's look at it. I have the same reference that I use for the Harvard style. I've repeated it here to help you compare, okay, know the differences. So this time, instead of having the, after mentioning the surname of the individual and the initial of the individual, you do not add a full stop before a comma. That is the difference between Vancouver and the Harvard style. There's a full stop after the initial for the Harvard style. But in the Vancouver style, there's no full stop after the initial. And then after the list of the authors, we do not have the year of publication. For Harvard style, the year of publication appears right after the list of authors. Then the journal title, the journal name, sorry, is not italicized. It's not italicized. So the year of publication appears after the journal name, and then you have the volume, the issue number in parentheses. Then we have a colon and then the page numbers. So that's what makes it a little different. Let's look at the in-text reference. The in-text reference for Vancouver style is in the numeric format. So far, we've been looking at the in-text reference being in the author date format. But for Vancouver, it's in the numeric format. Okay, let me explain. So I have an example here. You have various references that you want to reference in text. The first reference assumes the number 1. The second reference assumes the number 2. Okay, so you represent the various references with numbers in that order. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, if you want to repeat the same reference, then you have to use the very number you used earlier for it. So for instance, in the last line on the slide, nematodes are the most common among all helminths. You realize that the number 4 appears again, meaning it's the same reference as the number 4 that was used earlier. So if the reference is appearing more than once, you still use that very number you used earlier, okay? And the number can be superscript or can be in a bracket, okay? Superscript as in here or in a bracket, right? And these numbers should match the references. So when you go into your bibliography, you should have the various references there. The reference list should be in the same, should be in accordance with the numbering. So you do not number alphabetically like you do for the Harvard style. The Harvard style, you arrange it in alphabetical order, okay? However, for the Vancouver style, you arrange it according to the numbers and how they appeared in the text. Then we have the MLA style. The MLA style is quite similar as well. However, the little difference with it is it includes the DOI. It includes the DOI. So let's look at it. Another difference is with the names of the authors. It writes it as just the surname. The first name doesn't appear. So you have just the surnames. And then if there are more than two, you add et al. To it. And then the title of the article, is written in quotations, okay? And the journal name is italicized right after the title of the article. You have your volume, and see how the volume is written. The volume number is written, it's quite different. The issue number, and then we now have the year of publication, page numbers, and then the DOI link. Okay, so that's for the MLA style. So depending on what your institution may be asking you to use, you may want to go in for any of these styles. Okay. So let's look at the in-text reference for the MLA style. It's very different from what we've seen so far. Okay, so in case the article or the book has to do with just one author, then we would write just the surname of the author and then the page number in which that phrase or quotation appears. So, for example, secondary metabolites such as alkaloids and saponins possess anti-helminthic activities, right? That is the information that we are citing. And Ali wrote that paper. So Ali is his surname. So Ali, and then 216, which is the page on his article that we found that information, on the book that we found that information. Okay. Now, if you want to reference this within the text, you're not placing it at the end of a sentence, but you're placing it within the sentence. Then it's going to appear this way. According to Ali, secondary metabolites such as alkaloids and saponins possess anti-helminthic activities. Then the page number comes at the end in parentheses. So that's how the MLA referencing style works for one author. Let's look at for two authors. So when we have two authors, we are going to write their surnames and separate it with end. So Case and Aristotle. And then the page number shows, okay, Case and Aristotle 57, all in parentheses. We would have this kind of reference if we are placing it at the end of the sentence. But if it's going to be within the sentence, it's going to appear like Case and Aristotle claimed that so and so and so. And then at the end of the sentence, you have 57 in parentheses. So same kind of format, okay? Let's look at three or more authors. We are going to use their surname, the first author's surname, and then et al. And then the page number of the article would also show, okay? And everything put in parentheses. But you do this when you are placing this in-text referencing at the end of a sentence. But if it's going to be within a text, okay, within a sentence, then there's a different way you're going to approach it. The Case et al. Would be on its own without the brackets. And then the page number alone will be in brackets at the end of the sentence. Okay, so if you have multiple sources that are going to be cited at one point for the MLA style, you're going to reference them as normal and then separate them with the semicolon. So we know for the MLA, now we know for the MLA referencing style that the surname of the author and then the page number is what we need. So for example, we are going to have Smith 42, meaning Smith alone wrote that paper. and then Bennett 71, meaning Bennett alone wrote that paper. And then we are going to separate the two with a semicolon. Okay, so same kind of formats, the same way you reference in text. You're going to now reference it that way, and then you separate using the semicolon. Okay. Let's look at the APA style. So with the APA style, you're going to have the author or authors, depending on whether you're referencing a paper which has one author or multiple authors. The article title, journal title, publication date, the journal volume number, the issue number, the pages, and the DOI number in that order. So let's have an example. So we have the author's last name, then the initial, then the second author's name, and then an initial. The next author's name, an initial. And then we have the symbol end, not in letters, but in a symbol form. Okay. And then the author's last name, and then his initial. Okay. The first name's initials or middle names. You can also have middle name initials as well. And then the year of publication would appear at the end. Then the article title, the journal title, the volume number, and then the issue number in brackets, page numbers, and then the DOI. Okay. So this is how it's going to appear. The journal name is going to be italicized. The volume number is also going to be italicized. But the issue number, it stays in the bracket. Quite similar to that of the Harvard referencing style as well. And also similar in a way to the MLA style, because the MLA style also gives you the DOI link. Okay. So these various styles we have seen today may be quite similar, but there are just little differences that help us to know which style you are working with and which style you are dealing with. And when you're referencing, you want to make sure that your reference styles are consistent. So it's not that you start with a Harvard referencing style and then in the middle you go and do Vancouver. Then at the end you come and do something else. Okay. It just shows that you are not attentive to detail and you do not know what you're doing. You do not know what you're about. So let's learn it from here today. Whichever work you're doing, just use one style. So if you want to publish a paper, follow the requirements there. If they say APA style, follow the APA style. Do not add any other. So at the end of your drafting, you want to go through and make sure every single reference is consistent with what you are already doing and also consistent with the style that you are, trying to, and the requirements you're trying to meet. Okay. So let's look at the in-text reference for the APA referencing style. If you have one or two authors, you're going to separate their names with end. If you have one author, it's going to appear like Monroe 2015, okay? Monroe alone wrote the work, so Monroe 2015. But if you have two authors, it's going to be Monroe and Langan 2015. But you're going to use the symbol end, okay? The symbol for end in brackets. But if you're putting this in a text, you want to start with the reference or you're putting it within the middle of the sentence, okay, then you cannot use the symbol end. You have to now spell it out in words. So it's going to be AND, Monroe and Langan 2015. But your year of publication 2015 is now going to be in parentheses. So if you've realized from all the talk I've been talking, you would understand that some things are quite similar and they run through the referencing styles. Like the in-text reference, in case you're dealing with, you have to show the year of publication. Once you are putting it at the beginning of a text or within a sentence, okay, you have to put the year of publication in parentheses, and then the names do not go into the parentheses. So that runs through. Okay. If you have more than 2 authors, so you have like 3 authors, 4, 15 authors, a lot of authors, okay? All you need to do is get the first author's surname and then add a dot, a comma, and then the year of publication, all in parentheses. But if you are putting it within the text, it's a little different. So you have the author's last name, the first author's last name, then you have a full stop without the comma. Then you have the year of publication in parentheses. So I have an example here. Gray et al. 2016 explained. Okay, so this is where you're starting the sentence with your reference. Okay, so if you want to cite multiple works in the same text, then you're going to cite them as normal, like we did with the other kinds of other styles. You cite as normal. So for APA style, you know that if you're going to cite a paper that has 2 authors, you're going to mention the 2 author surnames and separate it with a symbol end. So you do that, add the year of publication, and then you reference the other, the other works, and you separate them using the semicolon. Okay, so the same thing applies here. Okay, so I think at this point, I've given you a lot of information. It's a lot of information, and it will be quite difficult for you to remember how different APA style is from the Harvard style and what to do when it comes to each of the styles. So to make our lives easy, okay, we have referencing softwares now. And these referencing softwares help to, generate the references for us. All we need to do is put in the information that the referencing software needs, and it will generate it in text, bibliography, reference list. It will generate everything for us. So we have different types of referencing softwares. Mendeley, EndNote, Zotero, BibTeX, RefWorks, PaperPile. Okay, we have a lot of them. But I am quite familiar and very comfortable with Mendeley. So I'll be teaching you Mendeley today. Okay. I love Mendeley because Mendeley helps you to, generate your site, your references quite easily. Aside that, you can work offline. Okay, so the Mendeley version that I use, you can work offline, but in recent years, it has been changed. So you cannot work offline anymore. You have to work online. So with Mendeley, one thing I love about Mendeley is once you are surfing the net, okay, and you find an article and you cannot download the article, you can at least use what we call the Mendeley Web Importer to download, to generate your reference and then add to your library, which I will show you very soon. And it makes it quite simple and easier to deal with. So I think Mendeley is a good one. So let's get into it. We have different things to look at when it comes to Mendeley. We have what we call the Mendeley desktop, which is now the Mendeley Reference Manager. So you can download that software onto your laptop, onto your PC, and then it helps you to create the references as you are writing the papers. Okay. And then we also have the Mendeley Web, which is a cloud account that has copies of all your work. So in case you change your laptop, you can still get your information, get all your PDFs, all your files back onto your Mendeley Reference Manager. And then we also have the Mendeley Importer, which I spoke about earlier. as you're surfing the net, it helps you to generate references. So you do not always need to download PDFs. Okay. The first step, I hope we are all attentive at this point, because it's going to get a bit hands-on. So the first step you need to do is to, sorry. The first step is to go to mendeley.com, www.mendeley.com, and then sign up to Mendeley. Okay, sign up, get an account. And then when you're done, you download the reference manager, okay, from the website. You download the reference manager. You can have the reference manager for Windows. You can have for your Mac OS or Linux. You can download and then use it on any form of PC you're working with, okay? And after that, the next thing you need to do is to build your library. So collect all the information, get all the PDFs you want to reference from, and then build that library on Mendeley. And then it makes your work easy, makes life easy for you. Okay. On Mendeley too, you can add some highlights and sticky notes as well. So I would like to share with you basically how Mendeley works. Okay, so this is my Mendeley reference manager. And I have built my library already. Okay, so if you want to download Mendeley, all you need to do is go to okay. I hope we can all see the Mendeley reference manager.
Yes.
We all see. Okay. So once you download your Mendeley reference manager, okay, you've signed into the account and you've downloaded. All you need to do is to create your library. And how do we do that? So let me try with, okay. Please give me a minute. I want to get a PDF to work with.
Sure, no problem.
All right. So I have downloaded a PDF, okay, that I want to use to reference. So this PDF is what we have at the top here. All I need to do is drag that file onto my folder. Okay. First of all, I think I need to teach you how to create folders. So let's go to new collection. Okay, you just type in the folder name you want to use. So let's say it's your thesis. So you type thesis, okay? All right, and then you click enter, it saves for you. But I've created one for the purposes of this presentation, IFPS. Okay, so how do I get files into this particular folder? So after I have downloaded my file, and now drag it onto my folder. Okay, and then it uploads it for me. But mind you, if you're not connected to the internet, this becomes a bit difficult because it's automatically also syncs with your Mendeley web. So you need to be connected to the internet. So once I'm done with this, I can now reference. Okay. All right, so another thing you need to do after building your library. So now I built my library, I've added some files to the folder. The next thing that you need to do is to install your MS Word plugin. So you need to install a plugin that helps you to cite in Word, okay? So how do we do that? So you go to Tools, and then you click on Mendeley Cite for Install Mendeley Cite for Microsoft Word, okay? It takes you to the link for that. I hope you can all see. And then you click Get It Now. Okay. It downloads it for you. Okay. Then you can now open it in Word. Right. So in Word, I'll take my. Okay. So I have Mendeley Cite here. Okay. So I can now go to Mendeley Cite and then get started. I would need to sign into Mendeley before I can start anything. Okay. So now I've been able to log in. It's going to load my references for me. All right. So let's say I have, this is my thesis, okay, or my manuscript. And I want to cite this sentence, the paragraph here. I want to cite this whole paragraph. So I place my cursor there, okay? And then I look for the file I want to reference. And the file is just here. So I click it and then it can cite for me. But before I go ahead with that, I also need to do some settings. I need to pick my citation style. Automatically, I have the APA style here. But what if the APA style is not what I want? I can now change it and look for whichever style I want to use. So let's say my school wants me to use Chicago Manual of Style. Okay. So I want something that we've done today. Apart from the APA, we have Vancouver style here. So let's say my school wants me to use the Vancouver style. So I pick the Vancouver style and then I update. Okay, so I go back to my references and then I insert my citation. Okay, so with the Vancouver style, it's going to give you the number 1, right? Because it's our first reference. And according to the Vancouver style, they use the numeric format. Good. So let's now introduce our bibliography. Okay. Okay, so you place the cursor where you want the bibliography to appear. And then you now click Insert Bibliography. Then the bibliography appears. Very simple. It generates it for you, very simple. Okay, you don't need to now do all the manual work. Okay, it makes our lives very, very easy. Okay, let's try another. Let's go back to Mendeley. Let's get another file and then drop it here. Okay, so I'm going to choose a file from another folder of mine. So let's say I want to pick a folder from my cholera, a file from my cholera folder. So I go to my cholera folder and then I can pick anything from here. So let's go back to Word and then try and insert something. So I want to insert a citation at the end of this sentence, okay? So I place my cursor at the end of that sentence, and then I have to look for my file that I want to select from. So I want to select from my cholera file. So I look for the author. I can either search, probably I know the name of the author, but not the title. So I can search the name of the author. So I'm looking for Mensa. So I type in Mensa and it gives me options. I choose from and then insert the citation. And it automatically adds up to the bibliography. Okay, very simple. So, okay, now let's say that my school has now changed things, or I want to publish. I reference in Vancouver style for my school, but the journal is saying they want APA style, so I have to change everything. No problem, no worries. We just have to open our Word file, go to citations, change your citation style. Okay, so you want the APA. We change, and then you update. Once you update, everything changes automatically on its own. Very simple, very, very simple. Okay. Now that we've gotten a hang of this, let's look at the web importer and how it works, and then we'll be done for today. So with the web importer, you also need to install it. Okay, so you go to Tools, and then you click Install Web Importer. Okay, I have Web Importer already, so I'll just show you how it's done. So once it takes you to this page, you get Web Importer for Chrome. Okay, so it becomes like an extension on your Chrome, and that's what I have up here. Okay, so how does it work? So I have my web importer. I've been able to download it. I have it. Now, how do I use it? Okay. So I'm researching and I find a file that I want to use. Let me look for something different from this file. Okay. Let's see now. Okay. I can't find the file I'm looking for, but anyways, we'll still be fine. Oops, used. Let's use this. Okay, so I'm researching and then I come across this particular file. Okay, this particular article, which I want to reference, but probably I cannot download it. Okay, because mainly deals with PDFs. So I would have to, download and then drag onto the page in order to build my library. But in case I'm not able to do that, there's an alternative. So your web importer helps you do that. So once you have gotten your web importer and it's now an extension on your Chrome, you just click on it. Open the page you want to cite and then click on it. Okay. My web importer is failing me today. But when you click on it, usually it gives you options of the file that you are dealing with. Okay, and then you can pick the particular file you want and then insert and then add to your library. So it automatically appear in your web on your Mendeley reference manager. Let me try one more time.
I think you can click on the full text file first, then it should pop up the PMC full text by the right.
Here.
No, at the right here, under full text links. Yes, this PMC. This one, yeah, click on it.
Okay, so let me try one more time.
Yeah.
Okay, then after that, I click sign in. Then I can now sign into my Mendeley. Thank you for that. Okay. So the first file is what I'm looking for. So it's already clicked, but if it's not, I can click it and then click add. Okay. And it will automatically add to my my cloud account. And then once my reference manager is already connected to the internet. So it can easily come onto my reference manager. I cannot see it here. So let's go to all references or recently added. In recently added, you see it as the first one, Norte and Cosa Estego. This is the file I'm looking for. Okay. So automatically it has been added to my files. I can easily change the location of this. I can decide to move it from here to another folder to make things easier and then easily find my way around. Okay, so now let's go to Word and then let's try and cite that particular file I just imported from the web. All right, so I just want to change this particular citation. Okay, so I go to references and I look for recently added, and then I look for that particular file. It had to do with anti-malarials. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, so it has now showed up. And then I click on it and insert the citation. Okay. But you realize that since my cursor was not at the end of the sentence, at the end of the paragraph, it has showed up somewhere else where my cursor was. So to avoid this, you must make sure that your cursor is where you want your citation to be. Okay. And then your bibliography automatically shows up and it arranges it in alphabetical order because I'm dealing with a particular citation style, which is the APA style. All right. So I would pause here for questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Miriam. That was a very hands-on explanation of Mendeley and a very good one of referencing in general. So guys, do you have any questions, any comments for our speaker? Anything you've ever needed to ask about referencing? I know there were a couple of questions on referencing last week, and we said, basically just hold them on and you'll be able to ask them this week. So the floor is now open for questions. Abdullah, could you help moderate this?
Yes, boss. Thank you very much, Madam Miriam. But actually, if you can't speak up, you can kindly send in your question in the chat box. They'll carry it out because maybe you are in the noisy place or somewhere around not convenient. So you can kindly do that. We are waiting for questions.
Someone asks, what is the difference between Mendelian and Zotero, if there is any?
Okay, so like I said, I'm not familiar with the others. Zotero, BibTeX, I'm not familiar with them. I'm more comfortable with Mendeley, so I can speak for Mendeley. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Okay, so there is another question here which says, regarding the Vancouver style, should the numbers come in front or after the sentence to be referred?
Okay, so it depends on the kind of information you are citing. Let me give an example. I hope I have a good example in my slides. Okay, so let's say, for instance, you want to reference that, for example, helminth infections have some symptoms, okay, but you found one of the symptoms in one article, one of the symptoms in another, and you want to reference in text, okay, within the sentence, then you can place the number within the sentence. It doesn't necessarily have to come at the end. But if all the information came from one book, then you can place the number at the end of the sentence. I hope that makes sense. Or since you are dealing with multiple authors, multiple sources, you can put all the numbers together. So you can have, for example, 1, 15, and 16 all in one bracket at the end of the sentence. It still works.
Okay, thank you very much. Is that clear? I hope that one is clear for everybody. Then there is another question here which says, please, ma, can you go over the Harvard referencing style? I don't know if you can do that one. It's just a question.
Okay. So let's go over the Harvard referencing style. Harvard referencing style is, it usually contains the author's name, the year of the publication, and then the name of the, let's look at an example. I think that would be best. So the author's name and then initials. And then you have the name of the, and you have the title of the article, and then the journal name italicized. Okay. And then the volume number, the issue number in brackets, and then the page numbers. Okay, this is how it should look like when you're dealing with the bibliography. But with in-text, it's a little different. So with the in-text, if you're dealing with one author, you mentioned the author's surname and then the year of publication, all in brackets. Okay. If you're dealing with two authors, it's going to appear like Ejare and Tego 2006. All right. If you're dealing with more than two authors, it's going to look like Ejare et al. 2006. Okay. That's the Harvard referencing style. But if you're dealing with different or multiple sources, you reference them individually and then you place a semicolon in between. But with using the referencing software, it makes things easy for you. All you need to do is select the article that you want to cite, and then it generates it automatically for you.
Okay, thank you very much. So there is another question here which says, what is the difference between Mendeley and Zito? I think this one is answered already. Let's go to the next question, which says, can the numbers be written in superscript in Vancouver style? That is another question.
Yes. Yes, they can be written in superscripts or in brackets.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So this other one says, please, can we do referencing pictures, like how to do referencing pictures? That's a question in the chat box.
Okay, so if you're referencing pictures, what you would have to do is you place your reference below the picture, not above it, but below the picture. Okay, so if you are, I wish I had an example here for you, but if you are referencing a picture, basically the reference should come below the picture. Probably you took it from a particular source like WHO or any source that you took it from, you can reference them. I forgot to mention something. When you're dealing with web pages, because usually some of these pictures may be coming from web pages other than an article. So in Mendeley, for instance, there's a way you can easily indicate that it's a web page you want to reference. Once you place the information onto your Mendeley reference manager, you also indicate that it's a web page. Okay, let me add one more thing. you can add your entry manually. Okay, so let's say it's a web page. You can now change the reference type to web page. And then you can, whatever web page you're dealing with, probably is a WHO page, you can indicate the title of the page. So let's say it has to do with ascariasis. Okay, you put the title there, and then the authors may be WHO, World Health Organization. You place that there, okay. And then you add the entry. You also have a space for the URL. You should have a space for the URL. You place it there, or the DOI. You place it there, and then you add entry. So if you want to reference that particular picture, it makes it easy. You can easily look for the reference you're looking for, and then it will generate it for you in Mendeley. Makes it very, very easy and simple. I hope I have explained it.
Yes, well explained. This other question says, there is this one called Google Scholar where we can generate citations, and it's easier in a sense. Can you tell us about it? Are we advised against it? That is the question.
Okay, so generating citations with Google Scholar is good. It's good. However, I think it's tiring. For me, I think it's tiring because you have to generate it in Google Scholar and then select the reference and then paste it in your Word, which is quite difficult, I think. So easily, if you do not want to download the file, you can also do the manual entry that I just showed us, okay? And then it will get the file for you, right? So you can easily generate it for you, but copying the information and then placing it in your Word, I think that is quite tiring because at the end of the day, if you're dealing with Harvard referencing style, for instance, the Harvard referencing style bibliography, you need to arrange according to alphabetical order. So you now have to come and rearrange, which is a lot of work. So using the referencing tools makes things very easy for you. So just place the details you've gotten into your Mendeley manually, and it will generate the reference for you very easily.
Okay. That one is clear, I'm sure. There is another question which says, please, I would like to know if the Mendeley software is free and if Vancouver style shows the page. Someone asked that question.
Okay.
If the Mendeley is free and
Okay.
if the Vancouver have a style of referencing shows the page.
Okay. So the Vancouver style, take the last one first. The Vancouver style does not show the page. In text, when you're dealing with in text, it doesn't show the page, but it will show the page in the reference list or the bibliography. Okay. And yes, Mendeley is free. Well, that's one of the reasons why I like it. But for EndNotes, for instance, you need to pay if you want to use it more than 2 years, you need to pay. So yeah, Mendeley is free. Any other question for me? Mamba Sotoni, your hand is up. Can I hear you?
Hey, thank you very much. I want to ask a question about this in-text referencing and the one of bibliography. I want to know if you have to use both in-text referencing and also include the list of references by the bibliography.
Yes, you have to use both. for whatever paper you're writing, whether it's a thesis or even a manuscript, okay, you need to include both the in-text and the list, the reference list. Now, the in-text gives just a little idea of the paper you are referencing, but the list gives more details. It shows all authors, for instance, that are involved in the paper. It can give you a link to the paper if you want to follow up. So having the list within your paper is very important. Okay, so both in-text and then the bibliography or your reference list should show. Sonia, I hope I'm clear.
Are there more questions in the chat? Abdullah? Okay, let me read more. Somebody says, how do you reference information that is not necessarily published, like lectural slides, videos, etc.?
Okay. Okay. Give me a minute. So for lecture slides, videos, and all that, when you enter into Mendeley, for instance, okay, you have, like I said, you have a list of the various types of sources that you can reference from. So you can easily choose unspecified, which is much more broader, okay? So it can be a slide, it can be, you know, the other things that you mentioned, videos and all that. So you can click on unspecified and then you include the various information that you need to include. So the title and then the authors. Okay, if there's a publication, you include. If there's no publication, of course, since it's a video, you cannot have those things there. So whatever information that you have, you include it in there, and it helps you to reference. Any other?
Sorry, trying to see. What was the name of the extension that allows one to cite a web page link to Mendeley?
The web importer, Mendeley web importer.
Cool. So
Okay.
Levis is Mendeley web importer.
Importer, yeah.
Yes. So what if I write my research paper and I don't put the in-text citation and I just indicate reference at the end of my paper? I don't think it will be accepted.
Yes, it will not be accepted.
Yeah.
Be accepted. Can I add something?
Sure.
So about the videos, you referencing videos, you referencing the lecture slides and all. If you want to publish something, you want to look for more credible information. So yes, your lecturer may have given you some information within the slides. Can you at least verify if that information is true? So you can just copy that information, put it in Google, and it may give you various, or put it in Google Scholar, it will give you various articles that may be saying virtually the same thing. Then you can reference them. I think that's quite better than just referencing your lecture slides or referencing videos. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So I think we have just one more. So it's a bit long. If I am using Mendeley referencing software and I want to reference in text, does it automatically put the year of publication in bracket or not? Because with Zotero, regardless of where you place the citation, both the name and year are put in bracket, e.g. Shaw et al. 2023. And
Okay.
then you have to modify, do you understand? Yeah. So is it the same with other referencing softwares?
Okay, so with Mendeley, you would it will generate it for you automatically, like I showed you before. Okay, but if it is you are placing it before a sentence, you will need to modify it yourself. I hope that makes sense. Let me.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to show an example?
Yes, I want to show an example. So let's say, for instance, you want to place this citation, Corsa et al., at the beginning of the sentence. So you want to say something like, Corsa et al. Claimed that helminth infections are caused by poor sanitation. Okay, so after you reference, let me reference it. So after you reference it, you will need to modify on your own by placing the parentheses around the year and then taking the parentheses off the name. You have to do the editing yourself. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there are no more questions. I'm sorry, guys, if I have not read out your question.
Any more questions? Okay, so someone is asking, between Mendeley and Google Scholar, which is better based on my experience? I will choose Mendeley. Google Scholar only generates the citation for you, and you would have to copy it and place it in your Word document. Okay, so I would still choose Mendeley because Mendeley would automatically generate what Google would generate for me. Yeah. I hope that is answered.
Yes. Yes, it's answered. All right. So that we don't take any much of your time, I think thank you so much for the amazing session. It was very, very informative and explanatory. Please do well to connect with us on LinkedIn. If you have maybe any more questions, you can maybe send out a text. And the participant that asked for the slides, would we be able to get him?
Yes, you can.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much.
No.
Oh, somebody else, sorry, asking, can Mendeley generate for textbooks?
Yes, it can. You would have to indicate when you are dropping your file, your book file into the, if it's an ebook, okay, you'd have to indicate that that file you are dropping is an ebook. But even if it's a printed version, you can add entry manually and then indicate the publisher's name, the edition, and all that to generate for your textbooks. So it can be done.
Okay, all right, good. All right, thank you so much. Anyone that can unmute, could you please unmute and just help say a big thank you to our facilitator today, if you are able to unmute? Is that fine? Or no one can unmute? Okay, the settings. Oh. Okay, they're all saying thank you in the chat.
Yes, they are.
All
You're
right,
welcome. You're so welcome. I'm humbled to be here. And
thank
I'm
you so
happy to share the knowledge that I have with you all.
thank you. We'll
Thank you
definitely
for having me.
keep in touch.
All right.
Right. Bye.
Bye, Yusuf.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining. If you have questions about the upcoming week, I would be around for the next